I never thought I'd be sitting in the living room, reading a book, trying to ignore the uneasiness that had taken hold of my chest while the afternoon silence surrounded me. I was distracted by the sound of the front door opening, so I looked up, expecting to see my wife Janet, her face weary from a long day's work, dropping her bag carelessly at the door. However, something had changed. The Janet the first had bid farewell to this morning was not the same one. As she entered the room, her eyes were far away, and she walked with a heavy step. She didn't sit next to me like she usually did. As an alternative, she stood there for a while, twisting the ring on her finger. I put the book down as my uneasiness increased. I said uncertainly, "Hey, how was work?" She let out a breath. Her shoulders hunched as she turned to me, her hands now gripping the denim cloth firmly. She opened her mouth to respond, but it took time. "It was fine," she answered, in a nearly hollow voice. However, I could hear the underlying uneasiness and trembling in it. My stomach twisted as I observed her for a moment. "What's on your mind?" After swallowing, she inhaled deeply before her eyes finally locked with mine. I felt a chill go down my spine at the next words. She said, "I need to talk to you about something," in a steady but tense voice. I sit up straight now and put my book down fully. What she was going to say would not be simple. "Okay," I responded while attempting to control my breathing. "What's going on?" She inhaled again while looking into my eyes as though attempting to determine if I would comprehend. "Ever since my cancer diagnosis, my perspective has shifted. I don't want to waste time anymore. I want to experience life fully." Her comments made my heart tighten, and I felt a wave of worry wash over me. I was aware of the diagnosis and how it had altered her. In an effort to maximize our time together, we had visited numerous locations and tried a variety of new activities. However, and what was next? I muttered, "I get that," in a softer tone than I had intended. "I support it, you know that." Her smile was fleeting, almost melancholy. Her voice lowered as she inhaled deeply once more. "I want a hall pass." "A pass to the hall?" At first, the words didn't register. I felt the world tilt around me as I blinked. As though attempting to make sense of it, I repeated, "A hall pass?" She nodded, a mixture of resolution and nerves visible in her eyes. "Just a one-time thing. A chance to be with someone else, sexually." I looked at her, not understanding what she was asking for. I thought this was some sort of joke. "You're serious?" I said, my voice brimming with belief. She nodded one more while closely observing me, her face marked with vulnerability. The query escaped my lips before I could stop it. "Why?" As if struggling to find the perfect words, she looked down and parted her lips. "Because I don't want to feel like I'm missing out on anything. I've never been with anyone but you, Martin, and after everything that's happened, I don't want to regret not having experienced more. I don't want to look back and think that I held myself back because of fear or guilt." Her remarks were like a face slap. Her words were so difficult for me to comprehend. I felt as though I was suffocating as I searched for breath in a suddenly too small room. I was at a loss for words. My thoughts were racing, and I was experiencing a wide range of emotions at once. Sadness, bewilderment, and anger. This was the last thing I anticipated. I parted my lips, then shut them again. With the weight of her request pressing down on me, I was unable to respond, and my voice caught. She broke the stillness with a low remark. "You've always been attracted to him." My blood became chilly. "With someone from work?" I inquired, my tone brimming with incredulity. She gave a nod. "Yes. He's leaving the company soon, so I'll never see him again. It feels like the perfect opportunity." "Excellent." The word felt like a sharp blade stuck directly in my chest, slicing through me. I reiterated, trying to make sense of it. "You've always been attracted to him." She let out a long sigh. "There's always been something there, yes. But I never acted on it, never even considered it until now. In an attempt to prevent the headache from getting worse, I massaged my temples. I said in a flat, frustrated voice, "And you think this one time will somehow make you feel fulfilled, complete?" Her eyes softened, almost apologetic, and she hesitated. "I don't know, but I just know I don't want to go through life wondering what it would have been like. And I don't want to resent you for saying no." The words struck me harder than I had anticipated, and I froze. "So, if I say no, you'll be angry with me?" A long pause ensued. Disappointment crept into her features as her gaze fell to the table in front of her. I was unsure of my thoughts. My mouth opened once again, but nothing escaped. What was my response to this intended to be? I looked at her, finding it difficult to express how I felt. I got the impression that every aspect of our marriage was being ripped apart, piece by piece. Her voice was softer now. "If you weren't so insecure, this wouldn't be such a big deal." My chest constricted. Uneasy? "So I was the issue now? You're telling me that after 20-plus years of marriage, my unwillingness to let you sleep with someone else means I have a problem?" I asked, leaning back in my chair with a look of astonishment on my face. She looked away for a time and bit her lip. "I'm not saying you have a problem. I'm just saying this is important to me, and I need you to trust me." "That's not trust," I yelled, raising my voice in spite of myself. "That's coercion. You're asking for permission while already punishing me for saying no." I could sense the strain in the air as the room went silent. She was staring at me, waiting for me to react, but all I could do was sit there with my pulse pounding and my head aflutter with hurt and rage. The following morning, I felt a peculiar clarity that I hadn't had in days. Except for the faint hum of the kitchen refrigerator, the home was silent. The globe seemed to be holding its breath in anticipation of an event. However, I had no idea what that something was. My stomach churned as I heard Janet moving about downstairs. I had been lying in bed, mentally reliving every second of the previous evening. The way she looked at me and the words she used when she requested the hall pass, and a nagging concern continued to grow in the back of my mind. What did this mean for us? Eventually, one of us would have to initiate contact. The stillness between us was getting heavier by the moment, and the tension was intolerable. Janet was seated at the edge of the bed, already dressed for the day, as I sat up in bed. Even though she had a softer face this morning, she still exuded that odd energy, as if she were preparing for something. She had the same dejected smile on her face when she turned to face me, but it stopped short of her eyes. She said, "I realized something," in a low, almost contrite voice. A knot in my chest tightened. "What is it?" She paused, chewing her lip and tapping her knee with her fingers. "It's not fair to put all of this on you. I've been thinking about it, and I'm going to take the decision out of your hands." I glanced at her, attempting to understand her meaning while my heart skipped a beat. "What does that mean?" Her remarks came as a slap in the face as she inhaled deeply. "I booked a hotel near the restaurant where his send-off party is. I'll spend the night with him, and I hope you'll be here when I get back." A chill began to seep into my veins as I froze. My stomach turned when the words finally registered, even if they didn't register at first. "You've made up your mind already?" With a steady stare, she nodded. "I have." It was oppressive to be silent with each other. I wanted to shout and hurl everything at her, but I was unable to do so. My mind was racing, trying to figure out what she was saying, and my hands were balled into fists. I questioned, incredulously, "You're not even telling me who he is. Not even giving me a chance to know who's taking you away." "No," she said in a soft yet forceful voice, "because I know you. You'll obsess over it, compare yourself to him, and it'll make everything worse. The less you know, the better." I felt my anger building as I stood there. I was told by the woman I had dated for more than 2 decades that she was going to have an affair with someone else, and I would never even know who he was. It seemed like a mean joke. Despite my best efforts, the bitterness that was building in my throat managed to escape. That's funny. You say I can ask you anything after it happens, but now you're telling me it's better if I don't know anything at all. Doesn't that seem a little selfish? There was no apology in her eyes, but they did soften. She only gave a nod. I'm doing this because it's important to me, Martin. After everything I've been through, I just want to feel free, like I'm not running out of time anymore. I want to experience life. I was unable to comprehend what she was saying. The woman I believed to be familiar had vanished. She was no longer someone I recognized. I wanted to yell at her and tell her to stop ruining our marriage, but I was unable to find the right words. Rather, I remained motionless. This was taking place. I stood helplessly in the wreckage of our relationship, knowing that she would do it. I didn't sleep as the night went on. I was unable to. My mind was too noisy, too racing. I kept wondering about what she was doing and the man she would be dating. I made an effort to convince myself that it made no difference and that I had no control over her actions. However, it was significant. It was the most important thing. At last, I caved. I had to witness it firsthand. It was a poor idea, I told myself. I couldn't help it, even though I told myself I wouldn't. I have to be aware. Before I knew it, I was standing outside the pub, watching people flow out into the night as my curiosity tore at me like a beast in my stomach. I didn't intend to follow her. I had assumed that I would be able to leave and not have to witness anything, but I was there. I was unable to look away. She was the first person I saw, walking hand in hand with him as they left. As I watched them make their way to the hotel, my heart fell. I was surprised by the dude. He was neither young nor fit, which would have made me feel unworthy. He was balding, overweight, and elderly. Nevertheless, she was walking alongside him, as if they were more than just a couple. My throat tightened with each breath. This was taking place. She was actually carrying it out. I had no idea why I had followed them. Perhaps I was attempting to make sense of it all, and perhaps I believed that understanding would come by witnessing it for myself. In actuality, though, it didn't. It simply made matters worse. I stopped as they got to the hotel door. There was nothing more I could do. All I could do was turn around and leave as I watched them go inside, hand in hand. I'd seen enough. How long I stayed out there is unknown to me. I didn't give a damn. All I could think about was what would happen next, because the world had ceased making sense. Everything felt different the following morning. Everything seemed strange, and the home was unnaturally quiet, the kind of silence that seeps into your bones. I'm not sure how long I lay there, attempting to put together what had happened while gazing at the ceiling. My thoughts kept returning to the previous evening, her, him, and the motel. I should have been able to wake up from the entire situation, which felt like a bad dream. However, there was no waking up, and it wasn't a dream. I had already decided. This wasn't a passing phase in our union. I couldn't ignore this. It was something greater. I couldn't simply forget what had happened, no matter how often she apologized or clarified, since our trust had been broken. Downstairs, I heard the front door open and close, followed by Janet's kind voice asking if I was awake. I didn't respond. I was unable to. I was at a loss for what to say to her. I had to make my own choice now that she had made hers. Her footsteps came up the stairs a few minutes later. I didn't answer when she knocked on the bedroom door. There was a long pause before she began again, her voice shaking. "Martin, please, we need to talk." A sour laugh welled up inside of me, but I held it in. What else could be said? She had previously stated her priorities clearly, and to be honest, I didn't think I could convince her otherwise. I couldn't allow her to believe that everything was all right, though. With my body heaving with the weight of everything that had transpired, I slowly got to my feet. She was standing there with red-rimmed eyes, as if she hadn't slept either, as I opened the door. Her expression, which had been the same since she revealed the hall pass, was one of sadness and desperation rather than rage. "Martin," she began in a faltering voice, "I didn't want to hurt you. I never wanted to destroy what we have, but I had to do this for myself. After everything, I need to know I didn't hold myself back. Please understand." For the first time in years, I didn't recognize her when I glanced at her. She wasn't the lady I had married, the one who had been there for me through thick and thin, the one who had told me everything. Janet wasn't the same person. "Understand?" I asked again in a low, menacing voice. "How am I supposed to understand any of this? You went behind my back, made a decision without me, and now I'm supposed to just accept it because you needed closure." With her hand extended, she took a step toward me, but I retreated, feeling as though I was permanently excluding her from my life. I responded, "No, Janet," and shook my head. "You don't get to make this about you. You don't get to put everything on me and then walk away without consequences." For a moment, I thought she might burst into tears as her face collapsed. However, no. The weight of it all caused her chest to rise and fall as she stood there, searching for the right words. Almost to herself, she muttered, "I know I've hurt you. I don't expect you to forgive me, but I need you to understand that I didn't do this lightly. This wasn't some whim. I thought about it a lot." "No, you didn't. If you had really thought about it, you would have realized how much this would destroy. This isn't just a mistake, Janet. This is betrayal. And I can't just turn that off because you've had some kind of epiphany," I said, shaking my head as I felt that familiar wave of despair pass over me. A long pause ensued. She was staring at me, waiting for me to continue, but I was unable to do so. I was at a loss for words. In the long hours of solitude, I had already uttered what I had to say, repeatedly, in my thoughts. I had to make a decision now that she had already made hers. "I'm done," I finally declared, my voice husky and decisive. "I'm not going to keep pretending that everything's okay when it's not. I can't do this anymore." For the first time, I noticed something in her eyes that appeared to be regret, real regret, as her expression wavered. However, it was insufficient. It was insufficient to reverse her actions. She begged, "Please, Martin," in a voice that broke, "don't do this. I can't lose you. Not like this." With my fists clasped at my sides, I inhaled deeply. "You already lost me, Janet. You lost me when you decided to do this. I don't know who you are anymore." She was left standing there by herself in the quiet as I turned and left her, my footsteps resonating down the corridor. What transpired after that is unknown to me. I didn't hear anything else, not even her leaving, like it was holding its breath, waiting for something to break. The home felt empty. Then it did. A few hours later, I made the cool, deliberate decision to pack my belongings rather than out of rage. I knew I couldn't stay here, but I wasn't sure where I was heading. Not with her, not in this house. The affair wasn't the only thing. The falsehoods, the manipulation, the way she had attempted to use guilt to manipulate me, it was all of it. I picked up a pen, wrote something down, and put it on the kitchen counter. Find other accommodations as soon as possible. It was over in an instant. In a matter of days, the life we had created together, the vows we made, and the love we shared were all lost. I knew I couldn't stay, but I wasn't sure what would happen next. I had to leave. The days that followed were a haze. I followed the procedures, yet it didn't feel authentic. It felt like I had a great burden on my chest that I couldn't get rid of. and I was going through life without any real direction. I couldn't even recall the last time I experienced such loneliness. Janet didn't try to get in touch with me right away. I initially felt a sense of relief space, time to reflect, time to determine what would happen next. However, the quiet just made matters worse. I couldn't stop picturing her out there, going about her life, utterly undisturbed by the devastation she had left behind. And here I was, in the aftermath, questioning whether I was making the proper decision to gain some distance. I spent a few nights at a friend's house. It helped that his home was modest but comfortable, but I had a racing mind the entire time. Shall I return? Is there anything I can recover from this mess? I had lost my sense of what was valuable. However, as the days went by, something changed. As the burden in my chest started to lessen, I noticed that I was becoming insensitive to the discomfort. I was simply exhausted. I was no longer angry. I was fed up with arguing and acting like I could solve this, since I was unable to. This was irreparably damaged. Then, my phone rang one night. Something told me it was her, even if I didn't recognize the number. I was hesitant to respond, but I did. Perhaps because I was too interested. Perhaps because I wanted to hear her opinion, even though I knew it wouldn't make a difference. Martin? Her voice sounded strained, and I nearly missed it for a second. The self-assured, resolute lady who had abandoned me a few days prior was not the same one on the other end of the line. This voice was unfiltered and full of an unidentified substance. "Yeah, it's me," I announced bluntly. She murmured, I need to talk to you." She paused, and I heard her take a trembling breath. "Please, can we meet?" I took a deep breath. A part of me wanted to end the call immediately. There was a part of me that wanted to tell her that I had already decided, and that there was nothing more to say. However, a different part of me that had been with this woman for more than 20 years and still harbored a glimmer of hope wanted to listen to her. "Where?" I inquired, in a chilly tone. She provided me with the address of a peaceful cafe close to my home. After we hung up, I sat there in silence, unsure of what to anticipate, even though I had promised to meet her. I arrived 15 minutes early so that I could relax and collect myself before I had to deal with her once more. I wasn't sure what to think as she entered. She glanced, distinct. Her eyes were bloodshot, as if she hadn't slept for days, and her face was pale. She was a broken, frail woman, not the self-assured one who had requested the hall pass. She took a seat across from me and was silent for a while. The stillness between us was deafening as we simply stared at one another. At last she spoke something. "I messed up, Martin. I don't know what I was thinking. I thought I needed something to feel alive again, something to prove to myself. But now I see that I've lost everything. I've lost you." For a brief moment, I felt something inside of me stir as her voice broke on the final syllable. However, it was neither forgiveness nor pity. It was simply void. Though in different versions, I had heard these words previously. The same cliched expressions that individuals use when they realize they've gone too far and can't go back are regret and apology. I remarked in a tight voice, "You can't just say, 'sorry,' and expect everything to go back to normal. You don't just break something like this and expect it to heal with a few words. It doesn't work that way," she said. "I know," as she glanced down at her hands. "I didn't think it through. I thought I needed to feel free, to feel like I had control over something, but I see now how wrong I was. I should have talked to you, should have trusted you. Instead, I made a decision that destroyed everything." I nodded. "Yeah, you did," I answered. "You destroyed everything. And now, I have to figure out what to do with that." Her eyes were beseeching as she glanced up at me. "Please don't say it's over, Martin. Please. I know I've hurt you. but we've been through so much. Don't throw everything away." I just stared at her for a time, my heart a jumbled mass of hurt, rage, and something else almost like sympathy. Sitting in front of me was the lady I had loved for so long, pleading for another chance. I wasn't sure I was the same person anymore, though, and that was the issue. She had lost the man who had trusted her and loved her. I also doubted that I would ever be able to return to him. "You had your chance, Janet," the first stated in a firm, yet decisive tone, "and you chose to throw it away." I could see the tears forming in her eyes as her face collapsed. However, I was unable to console her. When things weren't going well, I couldn't act like they were. "You're right," she muttered. "I don't deserve another chance. I've ruined everything." For a while, I sat there attempting to gather my thoughts. Something inside of me had hardened, yet the anger and the betrayal were still there. This was about me now, not just about her, regarding my honor, regarding my future. I finally pushed my chair back and got up, saying, "I can't keep doing this. I can't keep pretending this isn't a deal breaker. I have to move on." I could feel Janet's regretful stare on me as I left the cafe, even if she remained silent. I didn't turn around. I didn't have to. I felt as though I was witnessing someone else's life unfold over the course of the following few weeks. The house, which had been a place of commotion and fun, was now quiet and chilly. The emptiness persisted even after I had adapted to the silence in her absence. It was about the life we had lived together and the dreams we had created together, not about missing her. Dreams that had turned to dust. Living in a daze, I went through the motions. Although it provided a diversion, work did not satisfy the emptiness. I made an effort to distract myself from the devastation by staying busy, seeing some friends, and even taking up activities I hadn't done in years. But there was an uneasy feeling. I had no idea what I should do with myself. Was I meant to be sad? Was it expected of me to act as though nothing had occurred? Then one evening, the doorbell rang when I was sitting in the living room, merely looking at the TV without really watching it. For a moment, I thought about ignoring it because I wasn't expecting anyone, but I felt compelled to respond. So I did. When I opened the door, Janet was standing there. She was dressed in the same clothes she had been wearing when I last saw her. Her face was drawn, and her eyes were crimson once more. She appeared to be crushed under the weight of everything, as if she hadn't slept in days. She whispered, "Martin, please," before I could respond. "I need to talk to you. Just give me a few minutes, please." I had lost my sense of what I was feeling. Fury, pity, perhaps a bit of both. Nevertheless, I moved aside and allowed her entry. I had no idea why. I felt compelled to listen to her one final time, but I wasn't sure if I was being foolish. As she entered the room, she looked about as though she was seeing things for the first time. After a little pause, she spoke again in a tremulous voice. "I've been thinking about everything, about how I destroyed everything. You were right. I shouldn't have asked for the hall pass. I shouldn't have pushed you into this situation. But I need you to understand why I did it. After everything I've been through, I felt like I was losing control of my life, and I thought this would make me feel free again." At first, I remained silent. I simply remained there observing her and attempting to understand her words. She wasn't pleading for pardon. She had no excuses to provide. She was simply giving an explanation. However, I no longer thought it mattered. There was nothing she could say to reverse the outcome. I finally said, "You don't have to understand, Janet," in a forceful but composed tone. "What's done is done. You made your choice. You chose him over me." She stepped closer, almost begging, her face crumpled. "I didn't mean to choose him. I never wanted to hurt you. I was scared, Martin. I was so scared of what might happen. And I got lost in that fear. I lost sight of everything that really mattered. I lost sight of you. For an instant, I nearly felt sorry for her. because I could hear the pain in her voice. However, it was insufficient to bring about any changes. In all honesty, I was also afraid. Terrified by her transformation. I'm afraid of what this will mean to me. I couldn't act like everything was fine, because I wasn't the same man I was when we first met. It wasn't, I muttered. I'm not the same person I was either. I've changed, Janet. You've changed me. And I don't know how to fix that. I don't even know if I want to. Her voice broke as she stepped closer to me. Please, Martin. I love you. I always have. I know I messed up. I know I can't undo what I have done, but please, don't give up on us. Don't give up on everything we've had. I felt the pressure of her words crushing down on me. As I briefly closed my eyes, I knew what I had to do, though, as I opened them again. I answered, I can't, Janet, in a forceful voice. I can't live in the past anymore. I can't keep holding on to something that's already gone. You've made your choice, and now I have to make mine. She looked at me for a long time as though she thought I may change my mind or say something to retract everything. However, I didn't. I was unable to. I've already moved on, I added, my heart racing. It's time for both of us to move on. We can't keep doing this. We can't keep pretending that things can go back to the way they were. Even though I detested seeing the pain in her eyes, I knew that the words were definitive and that it was best. Hatred wasn't the issue. Retaliation wasn't the point. It has to do with me, about my mental health. Regarding my future, Janet inhaled deeply and gave a hesitant nod, seemingly acknowledging the reality. For the first time in a long time, she appeared prepared to face what was ahead as she wiped away the tears that had begun to fall. I apologize, Martin, she muttered. I remained silent. Nothing else could be said. Once again, I was left alone in the solitude as I watched her turn and leave through the door. The burden of things started to lessen as I settled into the couch. It was lighter, but not entirely gone. There was a feeling of closure and finality, and I experienced hope for the first time in weeks, something I hadn't felt in a long time. Although I had no idea what the future contained, I was certain that I would no longer let the past dictate who I was. I refused to allow it to rule me. I was going to find a way to move forward and rebuild my life piece by piece. It would be difficult. There is never anything. However, I was prepared, all set for whatever lay ahead. The first step to achieving serenity was that